Hello and welcome to People Online. We are running a series on management book reviews. The third in this pack is What Got You Here Won't Get You There with Marshall Goldsmith as the main contributor. The video attempts to capture the essence of the book. However, this by no means is a book summary. What is this book all about? The book is as much about self improvement as it is about coaching others. It explains the fundamentals of performance coaching very, very well. And notwithstanding the seriousness of the content, the book uses many stories and illustrations that make it interesting reading. About the author, Marshall Goldsmith is a PhD from UCLA. He is a faculty at the Tuck School of Business, New Hampshire, and he is indeed corporate America's most prominent executive coach. We are all familiar with the maps kept in shopping malls which show where the shops are located, the approaches, and most importantly, where we are now. Some people do not need these maps. They have a great sense of direction. This is also true of life. Some people navigate through the realms of life and work unaided. They make the right moves all the time, and we call them grounded. Yet, most of us need to look at the maps and determine our course of action based on where we are and where we want to go. Coaches help us in this journey. The structure of the book. The book has 4 sections, and the sections are the trouble with success, habits that hold you back, how can we change for the better, and pulling out the stops. And we'll take them up one by one. The trouble with success. According to the author, there are 4 beliefs that come with success. I have succeeded, I can succeed, I will succeed, and I choose to succeed. Gradually, confidence turns into overconfidence. There is a resistance to adopting new ways of working, and the resultant rigidity gets in the way of growth and development. Habits that hold you back. According to the author, people working in senior managerial roles already have many strengths which help them to grow into the positions that they are currently holding. However, they have, over the years, developed some bad habits which are pretty universal in terms of their applicability. This book lists 21 such habits. To grow into the next level, managers need to keep these offending habits in check. Marshall recommends a 360-degree feedback to identify these weak areas and then work on them. We go to a story. 2 monks were strolling by a stream on their way home to the monastery. They were startled by the sound of a young woman in her bridal gown sitting by the stream crying softly. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she gazed across the water. She needed to cross the river to get to her wedding, but she was fearful that she might, in the process, ruin her gown. In this particular sect, monks were prohibited from touching women, but one monk was filled with compassion for the bride. Ignoring the sanction, he hoisted the woman on his shoulders and carried her across the stream. She smiled and bowed with gratitude as the monk splashed his way back across the stream to rejoin his companion. The second monk was livid. How could you do that? He scolded. You know, we are forbidden to touch a woman, much less pick one up and carry her around. The offending monk listened in silence to a stern lecture that lasted all the way back to the monastery. After returning to the monastery, he fell asleep for a few hours. He was jostled and awakened in the middle of the night by his fellow monk. How could you carry that woman? His agitated friend cried out. Someone else could have helped her cross the stream. You are simply a bad monk. The monk replied, I only carried her across the stream. My friend, you have carried her all the way to the monastery. What bad habit does the accusing monk exhibit? To help you with the answer, we have on this slide 10 bad habits that the author has talked about in this book. So we have passing judgment, negativity, making destructive comments, clinging to the past, refusing to express regret, failing to give proper recognition, withholding information, playing favorites, winning too much, and telling the world how smart we are. Now we need to make a choice. Yes, as many of you would have answered correctly, the answer indeed is clinging to the past. How can we change for the better? Three important topics which have been taken up here are how to receive feedback, follow through, and feed forward. How to receive feedback. Some of the best practices in receiving feedback have been listed in this book in this section. Listening. Feedbacks could be harsh or biased, but one needs to develop the patience to listen on. Thanking. It is mandatory to recognize the time and effort behind the feedback, even if it appears to be inaccurate. Apologizing if needed. If the feedback is accompanied by a description of painful consequences for the person giving the feedback, then an apology is warranted. Writing down the feedback. If the feedback is distressing, it may be a good idea to note it down and revisit it later. Advertising. Once you accept the feedback, tell your stakeholders about your resolve to work on it and improve. Follow up. Once the improvement initiatives have been launched, one needs to check on the stakeholders who had given the feedback earlier on. Are they noticing any improvements? Accordingly, the improvement initiatives may have to be tweaked. Feed forward. Subsequently, one can ask the same stakeholders who gave feedback if they have any specific suggestions or tips that can bring about improvements in behavior. This is feed forward. While feedback entails inputs about the past, feed forward provides inputs about the future. Pull out the stops. The fourth and the last section advises leaders how to apply the rules of change. The author advises work not only on habits and behavior but even in technical areas if needed. Prioritize and focus on one improvement area at a time. Do not block unpleasant feedback or pick up wrong areas to change. While working on behavior, aim should be better and not ideal behavior. Quantifying and even monetizing or incentivizing progress is also a good thing to do, and the best time to start is now. So we need to revisit one of our earlier slides. How do we make a start? Let us find out where we are from our stakeholders, set our eyes on where we want to go, and commence our journey using a combination of feedback, follow through, and feed forward. Thank you for watching. If you like the content, please subscribe, like, and share. Press the bell icon to stay tuned in for our next video, which is on the book Ikigai by Hector Gracia and Frances Miralles. Until then, goodbye.